Hi, it's Frank, and I'm back once again talking about constructing chords with intervals and scales. Specifically, as we saw in the last video, we're working with the C major scale, and we're creating chords, or triads as they're known, that involve three notes. We're sticking with the key of C, which means the chords we're creating are diatonic to that key. As a reminder, that just means that all the notes found in these chords belong in the key of C. The beauty there is that the key of C has no sharps or flats. So if we accidentally find a sharp or a flat in the chord we're constructing, then that's the wrong chord. So right now we're going to focus on the minor chords. You may recall in the last video I talked about how there was a pattern to constructing the major chords that we were working with, and there were three of them in that video. The chords we created in that video were C major, F major, and G major. And that relied on understanding that we always went a certain distance from the starting note up, both to get to the second and then the third note in that particular chord. The pattern then was to go up a major third, 2 whole steps, and then from that second note go up a minor third, which is a step and a half. For a minor chord, we're going to take the pattern I just mentioned and invert it, which means turn it around. Yes, that's right. We're just going to stick with what we've already learned, but we're going to flip it. And that is going to help us create 3 minor chords in the key of C major. So to start with, we're going to go to the second note of the C major scale. And as a reminder, these are the notes that we use for C major. C, D as in dog, E, F, G, A, B as in boy. If we continue on from there, we get to the octave, and then we would just start the whole thing again. So for our purposes, we just need those 7 unique notes from C up to B as in boy. And we assign numbers to them as we did in the previous video. So C is number 1, which would make D as in dog the second note in this scale. If we start on the note D as in dog and go up a third, it means we're skipping the next note in the musical alphabet. So I don't even have to play the note to kind of think about that, because I know that A, B, C, D, E is the next note in the alphabet. If I skip E, then the next note for us is F. So D to F, as it turns out, would be like going from the open 4th string to the 3rd fret of the 4th string. And that total distance would be a step and a half, or what's called a minor third. So that tells me right off the bat that the triad I'm building, the chord I'm making, is a minor chord, because a minor third always yields a minor chord. All right? It's always established in the distance from the root, the starting note, to the note right after it that you're going to. In this case, the distance of a minor third. So D to F is a minor third. That will give us a minor triad. From the F note, we're going to go up a major third, or 2 whole steps. That is to say, we're going to skip the next note after F in the musical alphabet, which is G, and then we start again with our labeling, which means the next note is A. That also means the 5th of the note D is A. Now, a 5th can be determined by simply playing up 5 notes of the musical alphabet, meaning if I started on the note D as in dog and used the numbering, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A is 5 notes literally away from D as in dog. It's the 5th. Fifths are not affected by major and minor the way the third is. A 5th has a slightly different name in music, and we don't need to go into the details of all that right now, but the main thing to remember is a 5th in relation to the root, the note you're starting on, is much more of a fixed point, whereas a third can be major or a third can be minor. In case of the major and minor triad specifically, though, a 5th is a 5th. So once again, the 3 notes that make up the D minor triad are D as in dog, F, and A. And I arrived at those notes by going from D to F, a minor third away, from F to A, a major third away. Again, if you think back to the previous video when we were talking about creating major triads, that pattern was exactly the opposite. Create a major triad, we go up a major third from the root we're starting on, and from the second note in the triad, we go up a minor third. So here's something you can lock onto and memorize as a means of creating a major or minor chord wherever you are on the neck, with whatever note. Even if you're not exactly sure what the note names are, provided you can remember what the shapes are. That's the other important thing, of course. Now, in the case of a minor chord shape starting on D, the shape could start on the 5th fret of the 5th string, go to F like that on the 3rd fret of the 4th string, and end on the A that I showed you earlier, 2nd fret, 3rd string, in which case you've got those 3 notes. Played all at once, they give you that sound. D minor chords, if you're familiar with the first position chord, have these same intervals in them, but they're rearranged slightly to make them a little more convenient to play as a single chord. But it's worth pointing out, if you break down any first position chord you probably already know, like a D minor or a C major chord, the three notes that we're defining as the notes in the triad are there. Often what happens is they're doubled, meaning you have octaves, but it's the same three notes no matter what. They have to be there as a minimum. So from D, the next note in our C major scale would be E. All right, C, D, E. E, it turns out, will also give you a minor triad. That is to say, if I start on E and go up a minor third, I arrive at the note G. That's a step and a half away. And then from G, if I go up a major third, I arrive at the note B as in boy. That's because from G, if I skip A, get to the next note after that in the alphabet, I would get to B as in boy. So E, G, B as in boy gives me an E minor triad. The shape for that with open strings is a little easier. It's just fretted note E here, and then, if you like, the third and second string open. Again, you can play a full E minor chord if you're familiar with it, and if you identify all the notes in that chord, you'll notice it really consists of just those three notes, but with some octaves thrown in. The final note that gives us another minor chord in the key of C is A. A can be found there on the second fret of the third string. And from there, if I go up a minor third, step and a half, I arrive at C. Also found here on the first fret, second string. From there, if I go up a major third, 2 whole steps, I arrive at E, also found as the first string open. So that means a minor chord shape for A minor on the first position could be this: A, C, and the first string open. This is usually referred to as a partial or little chord because it contains all the notes that make it an A minor chord, but it's just across 3 strings instead of all 5 or 6. The idea is the same, though, whether you're trying to add a lot of different strings to strum or you're just trying to figure out what those basic 3 chords are. I'm starting with the same pattern, and that's what's really important to take away from this. Pick a note to start on, go up a minor third, and then from that second note, go up a major third. That will always yield a minor triad. And in a larger picture of what we've been talking about across this video and the previous one, that means that I took the pattern in the first one and just inverted it. I flipped it. That was what got me going and gave me the ability to go ahead and identify minor from major. How I'm starting with the intervals that I use. Meaning, am I going up a major third first? Am I going up a minor third first? So there we have it then. In total, we have 6 different chords. Again, there is a 7th one, which we're leaving out for now, but across a major scale, not just C, but any major scale, there's 6 unique chords. One built off of every note in that particular scale. In the case of C major, 3 of the chords are major: C, F, and G. 3 of the chords are minor: D as in dog, E, and A. These are all considered diatonic because, as previously mentioned, I didn't have to add any sharps or flats because the key of C major doesn't have any sharps or flats. All right? So when you're playing a song and you're playing chords like the ones I just mentioned, if there are no other chords happening, there's a good chance you're in the key of C. This is how you can start deducing things when you're moving through chord progressions, either ones you're playing from a song you know or ones you're trying to come up with on your own. I will say that first position chords frequently mix. That is to say, just because you're playing chords you're very accustomed to in first position doesn't mean that all of them are in the key of C like I just outlined. A D as in dog major chord, a very common first position chord, is technically not in the key of C. And that has to do with the fact one of the notes is sharp. But again, a D minor chord would be. How and why this happens has a lot to do with the nature of how chords interact with each other beyond just construction. So that's stuff for a later video. But the main thing for now is to recognize that you can figure out how to create major and minor chords, or identify them even, using some of the patterns I just talked about based on intervals and their interaction with a major scale. All right, so again, as a recap, there is a PDF linked in the description. So if you want to go over all this stuff once again in the video, this time with something in front of you to help you navigate what I'm talking about, by all means, obtain a copy of that PDF. I think it will make a big difference in terms of your understanding of how we're constructing both major and minor diatonic chords, triad, in the key of C. Take care.